From Langer on X, America's demographics are much worse than Britain's. I don't point that out with glee. I just don't understand these posts from Americans. We have guns. Okay, and? Did they help stop 15 million illegals crossing during Biden's presidency? Or the H-1Bs? No. Right, this video's been a long time coming. I've been putting it off for years, if I'm honest. This little back and forth here just gave me a kick up the arse to get it finished right. Because I've heard this argument a lot over the last few years. Morgoth loves doing it. You can understand why genuinely passionate nationalists like to argue about whose country's the best. And I do agree with Langeria because Imperator Bacchus there has made a ludicrous, juvenile statement. But, and it's a big but, I have to take umbrage with the many, many, many people that routinely put posts up on social media saying that the US is finished and the US has got way worse demographics than the United Kingdom and all of Europe, really. Because unfortunately, Landua and anybody else who says it, you're definitely wrong. And I say that, unfortunately, because I love Great Britain. I was born and raised in that country as far back as my ancestry goes that any of us can figure out. We're from England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. There's no trace of foreigner in my blood, and as I've said many times, it's for that very specific reason that I don't support foreigners being allowed to run for office. I love America. My wife's American. I spend all my time with Americans. Got loads of American friends. I love American holidays. I'm culturally identical because I'm English. We're an Anglo country. I do Christmas, Thanksgiving. I love barbecue and monster trucks. I like everything about America, but I'm nowhere near as American as a real born and raised American. I can admit it, but the left think a bloke whose big toenail touches a beach in Dover is as British as you or I, apparently. I mean, it's flat out ridiculous on the face of it. But anyway, to the point of the video, okay? I'm going to tell you why, and I take no glee in saying it, the United Kingdom and all of Western Europe is in a much, much worse state than the United States of America, and why the statement that the demographics are much worse in the United States is also false. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, though, I can sum up in 15 seconds. Do you remember me advocating the M&M programme? Starmer sends us 100,000 snack bar regulars. We send him 10 million Mexicans. Remember me telling you how that was going to be a good deal? It would be a good deal. Well, I stand by that. Our ethnic people like football, tits and Corona. Yours like explosive shoes, hissing backpacks and big golden bell-end churches with AK-47s in the basement. Okay, to the crux of this video. As many people have pointed out, apparently, on paper, the demographics are much, much worse in the United States. Morgoth got in it with someone here when he put that. I'm sure you've seen that one floating around after everybody in the UK realised how poverty-stricken they are, thanks to 3 decades of slippery backdoor socialist governments. So this went around desperately trying to claw some respectability back, when in actual fact, tons of that is complete bollocks, especially healthcare coverage. Healthcare coverage in the United Kingdom is an embarrassment. It's 100 times better out here. In fact, if me fat old dad can't find a doctor or a dentist soon, I think I'm going to have to pay to fly him over. That's how bad it is in the UK. My local doctor I can see tomorrow, and there won't be 40 Moroccans in the waiting room either. Anyway, I'm not going to rant about that. Point I'm getting at is, he gets into it with this fella who talks about the diddler gangs, the graping, home ownership, and of course, the gigantic lumescent elephant in a yellow shell suit in the room, number of bell-end churches, because those things tend to negatively affect your quality of life somewhat, especially if you just want to have a quiet morning dig in the garden and all you can hear for 10 minutes is that shite call to prayer that's now booming out across the skylines as far afield as Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's unbelievable. And they get into it, and he says, there's nowhere in the UK that remotely resembles Baltimore or Detroit in terms of dystopian decay. No, there definitely is. It definitely is. If you work for a living and you stay out of the sink estates in Baltimore or Detroit, they are perfectly reasonable places to visit. He also says, you can needle us about diddler gangs, but your black population can't be counted. It's a fair point. On the face of it. But have we ever had organised gangs of swarthy chaps routinely sexually assaulting huge numbers of women and girls while the coppers do nothing about it? The coppers actually enforce the law in this country. They're still a little bit scary. And people will say, oh, yeah, well, occasionally they shoot people. Yeah, well, occasionally they do. But they don't let foreign men finger the kids, do they? And I'd argue that coppers should be a little bit scary. And regarding the memes with those demographics on them, here's a pretty good one, visualising the United States' population by race. And it makes for some interesting reading because on the face of it, it looks pretty bad, doesn't it? Especially, and this has got to be erroneous, or at least a result of the Americans, for some reason, inventing a new race for Hispanic people. Because as you all know, there is no such race as Mexican. You're either black, Asian, Caucasian, or a mixture of the three, right? There's ginger, green-eyed Mexicans. There's plenty of blonde ones. You can't just decide Mexican. I mean, that's a country. It's not a race. You can't just decide that they're black because you think it looks better on an infographic. Basically, thanks to the Spaniards and colonization, Mexicans are a mixture of Asian and Caucasian people. It depends on the individual ones. But culturally, they're very closely aligned with us, and they cause absolutely no bother. This chart here, which says that California's only 36% white, for example, I live in California. People love crowing about that one. They love to go, in your state, it's only 36% white. Yeah, and where I live, near Santa Barbara, is, without any shadow of a doubt, the poshest, nicest place I've ever lived in my entire life. And I was in the military for nearly 10 years and went the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. Pointing at that and going, ha, 36% white in your hometown is just wrong. You don't even see black people in the town I live in, and you never, ever, ever see a beardy weirdy. What you see is really, really sound like 70% of my team at work was, I guess what you'd class as being Latin. It's not a word I use. And they were sound as a pound, every one of them. Culturally identical, all speak English, all fit in, cause no bother at all, work their asses off, spot on immigrants. So this brings me to the crux of my argument, and I'm sure, well, it's unlikely Morgoth will see this, but if he was to watch it, I'd like to see him attempt to refute it with numbers as bad as these.
50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000, and more are arriving every day. As the people who lead these countries try to do what Joe Biden tried to do here, and that is fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of a nation and make white Christians a minority in their own country. In England alone, right now, 10 major cities, including London, now have Muslim mayors in a nation that was built around the Church of England. Muslims are now running major cities across the country for the first time in history, and the English want us to believe that this is all normal.
Will come out and he will stand for truth and he will stand for justice. May Allah give us the ability to stand for the haqq.
So this is not the Middle East. It's not East Minneapolis even. That is England. And when you see images like that, you can't help but ask why anyone, a prime minister or a president or a king, would deliberately try to destroy their own country. Why would you do that? Why is this being done? And because European leaders still celebrate our failed experiment in open borders, it failed here in the United States, and because they've chosen to stand with radical Muslims over their own people, it's because of all of these reasons these countries are falling apart and failing as the attack on Western civilization continues. In November 2015, 130 people were killed in Paris, France, when ISIS terrorists carried out multiple attacks in one day, targeting crowded restaurants, cafes, and large crowds. The French did nothing to close their borders. In March 2016, 32 people were killed at an airport in Belgium After an ISIS terrorist attack, they did nothing to secure their borders. In July 2016, 86 people were killed when ISIS terrorists ran down a Bastille Day crowd again in France, and they did nothing to close the border. The border stayed open after the 2017 London Bridge attack and the 2017 Manchester suicide bombing and the 2024 Christmas market attack in Germany. None of this was enough to stop or even slow the flow.
I'm going to stop him there, because if he's just going to reel off terrorist atrocities in Europe, we'll be here all week. I can't sit in this chair for the next 4 days, can I? But I trust my point was made. I mean, especially that. Look at that. Look at that. This is going to be a bitter pill to swallow. I'm not trying to brag that I managed to somehow convince a better-looking, younger American woman to drop the keks for me. But what I'm telling you is, again, you have to face the mirror. There's no point in sitting in a comfortable delusion. People who say, like Morgoth there, that, oh yeah, it's way worse in America, are just wrong. Let me ask you this, Morgoth, if you see this, or anybody else who disagrees. If current projections continue as they are, what's going to happen to the United States in 20 years' time? What's going to happen to it? Might be a few less people who look like me. That's true. But even the minority groups in the United States are breeding less. There's hardly any regulars at the aforementioned snack bar in the United States. It's fantastic. It's not like my hometown, or Bradford, or Luton, or Manchester, or Birmingham, or London, where you cannot move for them. And the big difference is that our immigrants come from China, Korea, Japan, Mexico, Argentina, Uruguay, South and Central America, and Asia. Yours come from 2 specific regions that are a wee bit more problematic than Korean fellas. Yeah, it's the entire continent of Africa and everywhere where they love going to the Big Bell End Church, praying 5 times a day, and shrieking about suicide bombing. So, in 20 years' time, on current demographics, the United States will still be a functioning country with a scary police force, law and order, clean streets, and yes, a few ghettos where we've segregated, basically, and all of the fellas with a bit of a tan like to shoot each other. Because have you checked those numbers? 9 times out of 10, they shoot each other. They're not bothering people like me. But your country, lads, your continent is going to turn into Eurabia. That's coming. France, done. Britain, done. Germany, done. You've all seen the numbers. So if Europe doesn't lurch to the right, you're toast. You are toast. By 2040, your kids won't be able to walk down the street without Akbar jamming 3 fingers down the front of the knickers. You know that I'm right. So the point of this video is I'm not intending to gloat or having a pop at anyone, but I'm telling you, the insistence that my life sucks and yours is much better is pure, unfiltered, AAA premium copium. All right? Santa Barbara will still be posh and still be mercifully free of regulars at the snack bar come 2040. But can you say the same for your hometown or any hometown on the continent of Europe? How are things going in Dublin or Edinburgh or Berlin or Paris? I mean, have you seen Paris? It's the armpit of Europe, that. There's shanty towns popping up in Europe now. Don't see them out here. But that's just my opinion. I've just give you some food for thought. I'd love to know the opinions of everybody watching this. If you think I haven't got the right of it, feel free to let me know why you disagree in the comments down below. All right? Anyway, I'm going to go into the garden and thank my lucky stars that I've never seen a bloke with a big daft beard and a penchant for self-immolation in the 4 years I've lived in this town. So I'm pretty happy with that. No rogering above kebab shops happening in this neck of the woods. And if there was, well, probably wouldn't end well for them, because I've got enough ammunition in my bedroom to kill every member of the Chinese Navy. Okay? Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gents. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you all tomorrow. All right? Toodle pip. Cheers.